how can you lack belief in something that you can't define? But my problem is that I was waiting for someone else to define what God they believed in and then decided whether I lacked belief in it or not. Because I personally held to the idea that there was no coherent definition of God. So my issue then becomes that how can you lack belief in something that you can't define? You can lack belief in all the proposed religious versions of God and still not be an atheist. For example, pantheists have proposed things that they see as God, something like the universe. Essentially, from my perspective, to say you lack belief in God in general is to say that you have some workable definition at least. But the problem is that I at least did not have any definition. I was waiting for someone else to define it and then decide whether I'm convinced or not. I'm not saying that we have to believe what is given to us. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm saying is that you can be a non-religious agnostic without being an atheist. There are several pieces of, I would say, evidence, broadly speaking, that for me add up to point to Christianity with some degree of confidence, with acceptable degree of confidence. There are several categories. One of the categories I could bring is that there are some things which we could have predicted to have been in place had there been a transcendent mind. I'm not saying this is strong evidence on its own, but when combined with others, this adds to the level of confidence. It's a combination of contingency and teleological arguments. A step from that is the evidence that this God, deistic or theistic, communicates with people. One most convincing thing is that all cultures across the planet have an innate religious desire to connect with this first cause. And they all have these ideas of a priest, of a shaman that communicates with this first cause. What I'm saying is not the stories they make up, but this innate evolutionary desire to connect with the transcendent mind. An event or an occurrence whose ultimate origin lies partially or fully outside of the universe as we experience it. Now, when you're asking for evidence, when you're telling me, show me the evidence, you are demanding the evidence that originates from the universe as we experience it. So you're very, when you ask me to show you the evidence, this very sentence in your mind precludes the possibility of me showing you anything supernatural. But my Catholicism is dependent on several important things. Determination happens whether this God intervenes or whether he does not intervene. Here's the thing. We accept that there is a reality where you've granted me now, there is this sovereign being, theistic God or whatever. Now the issue is, if there is this God and people, all cultures have had some view of that God, their own, maybe mythological view, then isn't it too much of a coincidence? And isn't the workable assumption, at least in this case, that this God has at least in some point intervened, and this is why they have this innate desire to represent this God, to talk about this God, to invent imagery of this God? That is the most natural conclusion. I see it from top down. I see from the top we start and we have this theistic being, and then if we notice some things we would expect, this reinforces the confidence. So what would we expect if this theistic being had communicated with people? We would expect people to have some sort of desire to connect with him.